Meanwhile, yesterday's South Africa's sovereign credit rating was unlikely to be downgraded to junk status by the ratings agencies Standard & Poor's for at least the next 2 years, but only if the country addresses its economic weaknesses. S&P executives said South Africa needed to tackle anemic economic growth, a large current account deficit, high public sector wages, and the financing of Eskom and other state entities for the rating to remain unchanged. Well, for more on this and the numbers on business confidence released today, we are joined by Chris Hart, who is Chief Investment Strategist at Investment Solutions. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yes. No, my pleasure.
All right. At the moment, we're seeing things going a little bit backwards as compared to last year and now. What do you think the economy is like?
Well, I think it's right that the sectors are split because different factors are in fact pushing against the economy. The low oil prices is undoubtedly a tailwind for the economy. Last year, I think we reached, in each economic cycle there, you reached the tops and the bottom. And I think last year was the bottom in the current economic cycle, and that we are in an upward cycle. So I was a bit surprised to see it coming down a bit because we should be in an upward momentum, and that should be reflected in the numbers. But I think it's quite correct that the effect of load shedding will affect different sectors compared to the oil price, which also affects different sectors differently. And basically that's where you're seeing the split. I think the weak rand is also should be a help for manufacturing, but clearly load shedding is a more important factor than even the weak rand. In any case, I think the rand is as weak as it needs to get. But I think ultimately the growth expected by the National Treasury this year is only 2%. The Bloomberg consensus has it at 2.3%, but nevertheless, it's better than last year, but not by much. And I think the rating agencies is exactly right. If we do not get growth going, the deficits deteriorate and we face another downgrade. And the problem with the ratings agencies is how do we receive it? As very often when the rating agencies upgrade us, we say, look how well we're doing. And when they're downgrading, well, who believes the rating agencies anyway? I mean, and yet they've got deep research. And it's very difficult just to dismiss it out of hand. And their research capacity and the way they compare countries is important, because South Africa is slipping down, not only in the rating agencies, in the World Economic Competitive Report, in the Ease of Doing Business report by the World Bank, the Economic Freedom. We're slipping down these ratings or the rankings when you compare us against other countries.
Let's talk about the deadline that South Africa has been given to get its house in order in improving the economy. They are saying they're addressing the issues regarding Eskom and the issues that we get from state parastatals, for example, SAA and the likes. They've been getting good positive sentiment from government in addressing them in the situation or the war room.
Well, let's put it this way. The government faces 4 expenditure bombs. The public sector wage bill is one of them. The wage bill in terms of GDP is about 10%. Our peers at about 5%, right? And they've got more effective government. The second is national health. That's a step change in the weighting in the actual effect on the economy, and that will hold growth back further. And that's an important thing. The parastatal funding. So the rating agencies have only got 2 of them, and the 4th is nuclear. All of them will end up taking South Africa to a solvency crisis. In other words, the downgrade is not as important. It's the need to actually go to the IMF window at some stage to try and bail us out. And they're going to tell us, fire a whole lot of civil servants, cut these social grants and that kind of thing. That's what we face if we don't get our spending in order. And a lot of the spending is inefficient. So you're taking resources, shifting them into the state sector and reducing the multipliers. All right, that's part of our low growth problem. The reason the hospitals aren't clean is because we're not actually doing the audit to find out why the transmission from what's budgeted to clean the hospitals is not getting the hospitals clean. Just throwing more money at the problem won't get the hospital clean, and you can do the same for all the functions that we're actually struggling with. And if you do that, you can actually cut taxes. We've got a contrasting budget in India, for instance, where they've cut taxes, simplified it, cut red tape, and they're expecting growth to be 8 to 8.5%. We've increased taxes, increased red tape, all of these things. We've gone the other way, and we're expecting growth at 2%, and yet we are a very high potential country, and we're underperforming. And that's what we've got to deal with. It's internal problems, and we're not doing things in an optimal way. We need to start turning our policies in such a way that it takes into account what's happening in the outside world. We can't be so introspective, and that we need to start improving our ranking in the world competitiveness, the ease of doing business, all of those factors. We have to do it. And South Africa should not be struggling with its credit rating. We're not a country that should be struggling with our credit rating.
All right. Chris Hart, thank you very much for talking to us. Unfortunately, my time is up with you. But yeah, quite very interesting analysis there on what South Africa needs to do to get its house in order. Chris Hart is Chief Investment Strategist at Investment Solutions.